Welcome, everyone, to this briefing brought to you by the Israel Defense and Security Forum, IDSF. In Hebrew, our name is Abitchonistim. IDSF is the leading Israeli organization advocating for strong national security to defend Israel. Thank you so much to all of our viewers and supporters for tuning into this briefing. We have a very important presentation today. We spent a lot of time in these war briefings since October 8th talking about what's happening in Gaza, what is happening with Hezbollah in Lebanon, what's happening with the Houthis, what's happening in the broader Middle East. And I don't think we've spent enough time on what is happening in Judea and Samaria, that area to the west of the Jordan River, which is very much a critical part of the land of Israel. So I'm very pleased to have today with us Lieutenant Colonel Tal Nir, who is very much an expert in this area, and since October 8th and even before, has been commanding soldiers in operations in Judea and Samaria. Tal, thank you so much for joining us. Tal, I don't know, can we hear you? Can you say something?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, excellent. Tal, thank you so much for joining us. It's great to see you. It's great to see your shirt with Abitchonistim on it. We'll get to that. But first, if you can give us just a general update, what is happening in Judea and Samaria since October 8th? What have you been doing, the extent to which you can share with us?
Yeah, first of all, I have to introduce myself. I'm, as you said, a lieutenant colonel in the IDF, actually in the engineering in the Judea and Samaria division. And since October 7th, and even before that, due to my position, we're dealing with a lot of issues back there in Judea and Samaria, and some of them are being prepared to make sure that October 7th doesn't repeat itself in Judea and Samaria. Actually, it's not a thing that we started working on after October 7th. It's something, it's a project, may I say, that started a long time ago, a few years ago, that we're dealing in making sure that all the settlements are secured, all the army bases over there are secured. And this is part of my job as engineering, and actually not only mine. It's all the forces that are involved with that, including heavy machinery, including people, and we're dealing with a lot of elements that we scatter around, and we put around all the settlements in order to make sure that those places are safe. So this is one thing. And another thing that we made before October 7th, since we had a lot of issues in the region before that, but we made a lot of blockades. And now we have a big project that we're making sure that these blockades are going to stay there for as long as we need. This is a legal work that is being done. It's not just, we cannot just go and put a blockade and make sure that it stays there. That's second thing. We're dealing a lot with dismantling bombs, and a lot of other explosives that we face all over the area. And one of the most exciting, may I say, things that we deal with is ruining the houses of terrorists that either killed or tried to kill Israelis. And for that case, it doesn't matter if they're Israelis, if they're Jewish or other Israelis. They could be even Arab Israelis. If someone killed someone, killed an Israeli, so what we do is we go to their house, we make sure that we ruin this house. This is also a legal procedure. and it takes some time. And we're running houses that the terrorists killed the terrorists killed a long time before. I mean, sometimes it's even a year. It takes a long time till we ruin it, and we ruin it in several ways, either with explosive or heavy machinery, as I said before. That's it in general, what we do.
Tal, thank you so much. I want to thank all of our viewers who are sending in questions, and you're very much intriguing people, and they have many questions either in the Zoom chat right now or sending it to my email and WhatsApp. So thank you everyone for sending in questions. Tal, I want to ask you a couple questions, and feel free to pass if you're not able to answer. So the first question is, to what extent, when you're operating as a commander in Judea and Samaria, do you coordinate efforts, or do you have to thwart efforts from the Palestinian Authority in the area?
I have to say that we believe that we have coordination. Okay, we believe. As an army, we have to believe that we have coordination. Having said that, we take the assumption that we cannot rely on their cooperation, and we need to act for ourselves by ourselves, because every day that goes by and you have cooperation with them, it's good and it's okay. But every day someone can wake up and decides that he saw something happening in a different place, in Gaza or maybe in a different place, and he can take his weapon and start shooting all over. And this could be one person or more than one person, and we take that in consideration.
Thank you so much. And another question, since October 7th, would you say there has been an increase in incidents in Judea and Samaria, or an increase in exposing or finding explosive devices, or has it kind of been the same since October 7th and prior?
I have to say that it kind of been the same, but not because there's no will on their behalf in order to go out to the streets or even to Israel. But what we're doing preventing actions, as we call, because we go almost every night to the refugee camps, and we search for them, and we arrest the terrorists that we know that deal with terror acts, and we go there and we arrest them. We go there with our heavy machinery and our troops in order to arrest them. So, and I have to say that we have more intelligence there than we had in Gaza. So we can go there and go to the refugee camps and act almost every night and prevent and make sure that what they do, what they want to do, stays in the refugee camps and never comes out of there.
Last question before we talk about what you're doing at IDSF. You use the term refugee camps. You and I have been to refugee camps, but I assume most of our viewers have not. Can you just explain, what is a refugee camp? Is it blocked off by big fences and you have to show an idea you're a refugee to get in? What does that mean, a refugee camp in Judea and Samaria?
Actually, it's not blocked off. It's like if you go to Nablus, for example, and you enter Nablus, you see the city of Nablus, and then you go to, it's not even a suburb. Sometimes it's inside, it's the core of the city, where there's Jenin, Nablus, Tulkarem, Nur Shams, and all the names that I can speak about in details, but it's actually like a neighborhood. Okay, usually it's a neighborhood of poverty. Okay, poor people are living there. They are not blocked most of the time. They are not blocked. The roads are free to go there, and in some places, for example, in Kalkilia, it's just less than a mile from Kalkilia to Road 6, which is a very main road in Israel, and also to cities like Kfar Saba and other cities in Israel.
Thank you for sharing that. We probably need to do a whole nother briefing on what is a refugee, what is a refugee camp, because when our US audience hears this term, they're thinking it's some type of special status or location, whereas if you didn't know it was a refugee camp, you wouldn't necessarily tell you're inside it versus you're outside it. So we need to spend more time in the briefings on that later. Okay, very important last question. I see your shirt. It says Apprehension IDSF. You're a member of the staff, and it's awesome to have you and to work with you. What do you do at IDSF? What is the nature of your work?
Yeah, actually, what I do as I conduct tour groups for security-oriented groups, and actually, I just came back from the Gaza area, the Gaza belt, with a small tour of Americans from LA and New York, and we showed them what happened on October 7th. We started in Moshav Tkuma, then we went to the parking lot where all the burnt cars are. And also we went to the Nova area where the party was conducted. And after that, I took them to one of the kibbutzim around Kibbutz Mefalsim to show them that the actual remains of the attack on the kibbutz on that day. This is one tour that we're doing. We're doing a lot of tours. We actually have a 5-day planned tour, which is coming and exploring Israel and see that the national security issues and matters in Israel up from the north, and also in Judea and Samaria, in Yerushalayim, and in the south, and of course in the Otef, as we called it, the belt, the Gaza belt area, and all over the country. Actually, that's our main goal is to show people from all around the world, and even to Israelis, what we're dealing here, and what is the meaning of living here, and why is it so important that we have the way of living that we live, and we have such a strong army with strong decisions that will lead us to victory eventually, B'ezrat Hashem.
Lieutenant Tal Nir, thank you so much for joining this briefing. Thank you for all that you are doing to defend the Jewish people in the land of Israel, and thank you for what you're doing for IDSF, and we hope to have you back on our briefing soon.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
We're gonna now move to Ronit Farkash, who many of you on these briefings have met and know, and Ronit works tirelessly for our organization, and she is living in the Gaza Envelope. And I wanted to discuss with Ronit what is happening in terms of civilian life in the area, and specifically what's happening with the kids, with the students in the Gaza Envelope. So Ronit, thank you so much for joining.
Hi, it's great to be here again. I wanted to tell you, first of all, we divide the Gaza Envelope into 2 areas. It is 7 kilometers. So the first one is 0 to 4 kilometers. It's where most of the kibbutzim and moshavim suffered the terrible massacres. So they are located in the 0 to 4. Most of them will not return this year. They will stay in, they are in hotels right now, or they already started to move to their temporary residing, where they live in the meantime. For example, we've got Kfar Aza in Kibbutz Shfaim. They are moving now to Kibbutz Ruchama, which is closer to their home, but it's not in Kfar Aza. Kfar Aza needs to be rebuilt, and of course, many of them will not return. Already half of them have left the kibbutz and are not together in Shfaim. The same goes to Nir Oz, Nachal Oz, all the kibbutzim. Now, the 4 to 7 kilometers from the Gaza border, which is us, my Moshav Tkuma is 6.5 kilometers from the Gaza border. We have returned in April. And we have a lot of problems, like you said. First of all, our kids have been through at least 3 to 4 schools this year, because they started in one school, then they moved to another one. My daughter then didn't find herself in Modi'in. She went to a different school, and now she returned back to her original one. So there's like ups and downs, you know, in the levels, because each school teaches a different level of any other subject. And of course, it takes time before you start really to learn. You have to be prepared socially. You have to have friends. You have to have to feel, you know, comfortable. And usually these kids, until they don't find themselves settled down socially, they will not succeed educationally. So it's also a very big problem that we are facing now. We have learning centers, which are amazing. At the moment, it's like a day a week. And we thought the kids won't come because, you know, it's TikTok generation. And why would they come for 3 hours? Everybody comes. It is amazing to see. And it doesn't matter what they teach them. They just, you know, they are thirsty for it. And we have other problems with the citizens that came back. There were many promises that we were made. And because the situation is very fluid in the Gaza border, so there's all the time new things happening and new noises and new sayings from the army or the prime minister of things that are happening or not happening. And people are just stressed. You have to, if you go back home, you have to be ready to be stressed. Otherwise, you should find a different place to live. We have 15% of our population. Like I said, we are on the border of the Gaza envelope. We are the privileged ones. And we've got 15% of a very, very strong crowd, both financially and also emotionally, who will not return because of their kids, because of their family, because of the security situation that is unstable. And it's a big loss for us as a moshav, as a community.
Wow. Wow. So what happens with that 15%? I mean, have they sold their homes and they've moved somewhere else and they've registered their kids in school elsewhere in the country?
No, we don't have, we have, I think we do have 2 families that sold their homes, but the rest, they don't know what's going to happen. And they're saying, you know, how can the government force me to decide what to do? I know that this year, I don't want to bring my kids back to study at a war zone, okay? I don't want my kids to do that. Why does the government force me? The government doesn't pay rent. The people that stayed back are people that can afford to rent a house and pay a mortgage for their own house. So many of them, the strong ones again, are still renting, okay? They're renting in different places, but they're not selling their house or renting it. But we have other families that are. And because, you know, the educational year, it starts on September 1st, so they already know that they are going to continue, and they have signed contracts, and at least until the end of June. So the families who are not returning, we know that they will return by July 25, and those who will have it good. And all of a sudden, we'll see that there's a way that you can live without having rockets over your head every 1 or 2 months. Maybe they will not return. Maybe they will sell the houses, and it is totally understandable, and we do not judge them.
Now, not so many months ago, traveling in your whole area, you see many military vehicles and personnel, and you hear the booms in the airplanes. What is it like right now? Meaning, when kids are playing in the playgrounds, if they're playing in the playgrounds, is there relative quiet, or is there still always loud noises from what's happening in Gaza?
It depends on which day you ask. Yesterday, for instance, we've got like artillery units right next to us, next to the Moshav. We don't hear from them for very ever so often, but when you hear, my God, you hear. I mean, my house shakes at least 5 times a day. It's already been 9 months, and it shakes 5 times a day. I'm talking about the glass, the windows. You hear, because you're 7 kilometers away. So you hear the Air Force throwing bombs, and you can hear the soldiers bombing. You hear also gunfire. And of course, if there are rockets, or if there are rockets from planes or helicopters, helicopters that are shooting rockets also. So it's very noisy. It is not a place for kids to study. It's very difficult, that the army says, yes, it is safe for you. Maybe it is safe, physically to go back to schools that are on the border at 3 kilometers, but I think emotionally it is devastating for the kids.
Absolutely. And talking about the kids and their education, what does that look like this year? During COVID, our kids kind of skipped a year of school, so to speak. Is it a repeat of that these kids are almost a year behind now?
Yes, it's a repeat of that, adding on the emotional stress and the fact that all of them are in resilience centers. Resilience centers have been built. They started to be built at the beginning of the 2000 because of the situation in the Gaza, near the Gaza border. So a lot of kids felt stress. A lot of kids went back to waking up, and they miss the toilet, and they start in their beds. So they opened resilience centers that you have social workers from the different communities, and they speak to the kids. Or if it's really really young kids, so you've got a lot of therapies like painting and music and sports. And if there were 150 kids from my regional councils, Dot Negev, okay, before the war, before the 7th of October. At the moment, everyone is in the program. I'm talking about all the elementary kids. 3,350 kids are being treated. So it's very different. So it's also, the fact that they are behind in their schoolwork, and also the fact that there's a problem.
And is the general sense that the country recognizes that problem and is providing the necessary support? I mean, are there kids running around who can't find a group to join or can't find a therapist?
No, everyone is covered. Everyone is covered. Also the grown-ups. All of us get a therapy. If we want, yeah? I'm talking about, let's say my moshav, we're 850 residents, and each one gets a therapy. If he wants in one-on-one, or if they want in a group, if it's a workshop and it's a few sessions, so it's not like you speaking to a social worker. Of course there is that, but many people don't want to. They want to do other therapeutic workshops. So there's all the options. We have also surfing for kids this year in the summer now. So they are going surfing every Friday. So yes, we are getting a full answer for that. But it's like getting therapy when the whole situation is not finished yet. So you're trying to what? You're trying to cure yourself from something that is not over yet. It's ongoing, and it has been ongoing for the past 20 years. So it's much more complicated.
Roni, thank you for sharing all of this. I want to ask you an impossible question so you can pass on it, but the 15% who have left your community, or the higher percentages who have left closer to the border, do you think there are people from elsewhere in the country who will say, wow, I wanna buy a home in the Gaza envelope. I want to move in, such that in 5-10 years from now, it's not necessarily going to be a desert, but there will be a life there in growth?
I think it divides into two. One of them are the people that will come out of ideals, that will arrive to the area and will buy a house because they think that is the right thing to do, and there's a great value in living close to the border when they know exactly what the implications are. And then there's another group that will arrive because there's a lot of tax benefits living close to the border. And then a lot of weakened families or weak families arrive, and there are families that need the money, and they want to have a good life in a kibbutz and a moshav for their kids, but they are not ready for it emotionally to face these threats. So I guess one of these two populations will arrive. But, very important, but the communities that are very close to the border, like Kfar Aza, Nir Oz, I know that there are social workers that are accompanying them throughout their process of recovery. They said, we are not accepting, new members into the community until after returning, and maybe a year after, because the whole community has to undergo a process together. It's not the time to bring in more people and different faces from different sides. You have to let the community to get it together and to calm down and relax. And then when they are stable, to bring in new people. So it's many conflicts.
Thank you, Ronit. Final question. People ask me all the time. I've no doubt. I know they ask you this as well. You're an American, you're a Canadian, you're British, you're Australian, South African, wherever you are in the world, you want to know, hey, should I come to visit Israel right now? Is it safe? Is it a good time? Should I wait 6 months? Should I not come at all? What do you tell people? What would you tell people this week?
Wow, you want me to take responsibility and telling people? Well, first of all, Israel is not a safe place for the past 70, 60 years. So I guess, there is a war now, but there's always something going on, if it's in the north or if it's in the south. I was just talking to a mission today, and I remembered all my time as a student in Bar Ilan University, that I kept on jumping off buses, because in the 1990s, there were a lot of suicidal bombers. So I don't know if there's a safe place. I can tell you that if I'm living with my kids and my family and near the Gaza border, and we trust our soldiers to protect us, which they do, and we see the amount of rockets, like last week after Muhammad Def, please God, is already dead, there were no rockets thrown at us. And there were no rockets because they probably couldn't. Otherwise, they would have thrown a lot. So I think it is safe. I think it is good to come. I think it's important to come, especially now. But it is totally understandable if people feel unsafe and people feel that they can't. I mean, it's all a matter of how you feel. So, and everything is, of course, understandable.
Ronit Farkash, thank you for sharing all of that. Thank you for all that you are doing. Thank you to Lieutenant Colonel Tal Nir, who was on earlier, and for all that he is doing. Thank you to all of our viewers, all of our supporters for tuning into this briefing. We will be back with you next week, 10 a.m. on Monday morning, 5 p.m. here in Israel. Until then, stay safe, stay strong. Take care, everyone.